I found the perfect dress. My sister Caitlin posted on Instagram at 11:47 p.m., the night before my wedding. I was lying in bed, too excited to sleep, scrolling through my phone when the notification popped up. I clicked on it, and there she was, in my grandmother's wedding dress, the one I'd spent 8 months having restored and altered, the one hanging in my childhood bedroom closet, waiting for tomorrow. She was posing in her living room, champagne glass raised, surrounded by her friends, announcing her engagement to Marcus. The caption read, "He asked." I said, "Yes." And look what I found in Mom's house. Vintage perfection. This beauty was just waiting for the right moment. 217 likes already. Comments flooding in about how stunning she looked, how perfect the lace was, how lucky Marcus was. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. Then I screenshot everything, saved it to a folder, and went to sleep. Because Caitlin had finally made a mistake she couldn't take back. She just didn't know it yet. Let me take you back, because this story isn't about a dress. It's about 27 years of being told I was less pretty, less interesting, less worthy of attention, love, and beautiful things. The dress was just the latest thing Caitlin decided she deserved more. If you've ever had a sibling who took everything and smiled while doing it, if you've ever been the invisible one in your own family, if you've ever stayed quiet until the perfect moment to speak, this story is for you. I'm Samantha, 27 years old, strawberry blonde hair that my sister always called not quite red, not quite blonde, not quite anything. Freckles that she said made me look like a farm girl. I work as a paralegal at a law firm downtown, engaged to the most wonderful man I've ever met, and I have spent my entire life being Caitlin's understudy in a play she wrote, directed, and starred in. Caitlin is 2 years older than me. She came out of the womb demanding attention and never stopped. Beautiful in that sharp, polished way that photographs well. Dark hair, green eyes, the kind of features that make people look twice. Our mother called her the stunner, and me, the sweet one, as if those were equal compliments. As if being sweet was anything other than a consolation prize for not being beautiful enough to matter. Growing up, everything was about Caitlin. Her dance recitals where she always got the solo, her cheerleading competitions where our parents rented a van to drive her squad, her homecoming queen campaigns that involved the entire family making posters and buying ads in the school newspaper. I sat in the audience at every event, clapping until my palms hurt, watching my parents beam at their firstborn while I faded into the background like wallpaper they'd stopped noticing. When Caitlin got a B on a test, there was a family discussion about how the teacher was unfair, how the questions were tricky, how Caitlin was too creative for standardized testing. When I got straight A's, when I made honor roll, when I won the county spelling bee in 5th grade, my mother would say, "That's nice, honey. Did you see your sister's new dance routine? She might get featured in the showcase." I learned early that achievement was currency that only worked in Caitlin's account. The first time I remember understanding my place was when I was 9 years old. Our grandmother, Nana Rose, came to visit for Christmas, driving 6 hours from her house in Vermont because she said holidays should be spent with people you love. She brought gifts for both of us. Caitlin got a beautiful porcelain doll with real glass eyes and a hand-sewn silk dress, imported from France. I got a small wooden jewelry box. Simple. Handmade. Nana Rose's father had carved it decades ago. Caitlin threw a fit because she wanted both. She screamed and cried until my mother took my jewelry box away and gave it to Caitlin to share. I never saw it again. But Nana Rose saw. She pulled me aside later that night and whispered, "I see you, Samantha. I always see you." And someday, everyone else will too. I held on to those words like a lifeline for the next 18 years. When I was 16, a boy asked for my number at a football game. Before I could give it to him, Caitlin walked over, flipped her hair, and said, "Oh, you don't want her? She's shy, boring. But I'm free Saturday." They dated for 3 months. She never mentioned he'd originally wanted me. Senior prom, Caitlin announced she was coming home to support me, showed up in a dress that cost 4 times what mine did and ended up in more of my photos than I did. My date broke up with me 2 weeks later, said I seemed distracted. I was. I was watching my sister steal another moment. College was my escape. I went to a state school 3 hours away. Caitlin went to a private university that cost my parents $60,000 a year. They took out loans for her without a second thought. When I asked for help with textbooks, my mother sent me $100 and said, "We just don't have much extra right now. You understand?" I worked 2 jobs to pay for my own books, my own rent, my own life. Caitlin posted Instagram photos from spring break in Cancun, funded by our parents. The pattern never broke. Caitlin's graduation was a family event. Everyone flew in. There was a party, a cake with her photo on it. Mine was a Tuesday afternoon ceremony that my parents watched on a live stream because Caitlin had a work thing they needed to attend instead. She was an assistant at a PR firm. The work thing was a happy hour. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Have you ever watched someone take everything and still be loved for it? That was my life. Every single day. I met Jason when I was 24. He was different. He saw me. Actually, saw me. Not the shadow version that existed in my family's peripheral vision. At Thanksgiving, he watched Caitlin monopolize conversation while my mother ignored me. "Does that happen a lot?" he asked afterward. "Always. My whole life." "I notice you," he said. "And I'm not going to stop." We dated for 2 years before he proposed on a hiking trail at sunrise, with a ring using my grandmother's vintage setting. Nana Rose had given it to him secretly, said she wanted me to have something that was really mine, something Caitlin couldn't take. Nana Rose was 83 years old, sharp as a tack, despite what my mother claimed. She'd been married to my grandfather for 51 years before he passed, and she still wore her wedding ring every single day. When I got engaged, I went to visit her alone. "I have something for you," she said, leading me to her bedroom closet with slow, careful steps. She pulled out a garment bag, yellowed with age but zipped tight against time. Inside was her wedding dress, ivory lace, hand-sewn in 1962 by her own mother. Tea-length with a sweetheart neckline that curved like a whispered secret. Delicate pearl buttons down the back, 43 of them, each one original. The most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "It was going to be your mother's," she said, running her fingers over the lace with the gentleness of someone touching a memory. "But she wanted something modern." Then I offered it to Caitlin when she got engaged the first time, to that boy from college. She laughed, said it was too old-fashioned and kind of sad. "But you, Samantha." She looked at me, really looked, the way she always had. "You'll understand what it means." I cried, really cried for the first time in years. Not the polite tears I'd learned to produce at family events. Real ones, messy ones, because this was mine. Something that couldn't be taken. Something that came with 60 years of love sewn into every thread. I spent 8 months having the dress restored and carefully altered to fit me. A specialist in vintage garments, a woman named Mrs. Patterson who worked out of a small shop downtown and treated every piece like a sacred text. She reinforced the seams, replaced the lining, carefully cleaned each pearl button by hand. $3,200, which I paid for myself over 6 months. I kept it at my parents' house because my apartment was small and humid and the dress needed proper storage. My mother had a climate-controlled closet in the guest room, the kind she'd installed for her own fur coats. It seemed safe. I never told Caitlin about the dress. She wasn't interested in my wedding anyway. Too busy with her own life, her on-again, off-again relationship with Marcus, her career climbing. When she got engaged for real, 2 weeks before my wedding, I felt nothing but tired. And then, that Instagram post. 11:47 p.m. I found the perfect dress. The next morning was my wedding day. I drove to my parents' house at 6 a.m., still in my pajamas, hair unbrushed, heart pounding. My mother was awake in the kitchen, coffee in hand, scrolling through her phone with the distracted air of someone avoiding eye contact. "Samantha, you're not supposed to be here. You should be getting ready with your bridesmaids." "Where's the dress?" Her face flickered. Something crossed it. Guilt, maybe. Or the shadow of guilt, which was all my mother ever allowed herself to feel. She hid behind her coffee cup. "What dress?" "Nana's dress. My wedding dress. The one that was in the guest room closet. The one I spent 8 months restoring. The one I'm supposed to wear today." Silence. The kind of silence that fills a room like smoke. Then, "Oh, Caitlin borrowed it last night. For her engagement party. She said you wouldn't mind." I stood there in my childhood kitchen, looking at the woman who raised me, the woman who'd spent 27 years choosing her firstborn without ever admitting she was making a choice. And I felt something shift inside me. Not break. Shifting is different from breaking. Like a key finally turning in a lock I'd been picking my whole life. "She took my wedding dress," I said slowly, each word deliberate. "The night before my wedding. And you let her. She's your sister, Samantha. She'll give it back. She just wanted to feel special for one night. You know how excited she is about Marcus? It's my wedding day. I'm supposed to feel special today." My mother sighed. The sigh I'd heard my whole life. The sigh that meant I was being difficult, dramatic, unreasonable. The sigh that said Caitlin's wants would always outweigh my needs. "Don't make this a thing, Samantha. You know how Caitlin is. She gets carried away sometimes." Yes, I knew exactly how Caitlin was. I'd spent 27 years learning, and I was done accommodating it. I drove to my best friend Emily's apartment. She'd been my maid of honor, my witness to 20 years of Caitlin's behavior. When I showed her the Instagram post, her face went through shock, anger, and finally cold determination. "You have a backup dress," she said. "The one from before you got Nana's dress altered. That's not the same. Listen, your sister just wore your grandmother's dress to announce her engagement. Everyone knows that dress now." Emily smiled. Not a nice smile. A strategic one. "She's getting married in 3 months. What if you showed up to that wedding wearing the exact same dress? Not as a bride. As a guest. She stole your moment. You could steal hers back." It was petty. Dramatic. Exactly the kind of quiet revenge Caitlin would never see coming. Emily showed up at Caitlin's apartment the next day, claiming I'd sent her to pick up some wedding stuff. The dress was there, wrinkled, smelling of champagne, but intact. I sent it to the restoration specialist. Paid extra for rush service. My wedding happened. It was beautiful. Small, intimate. Exactly what Jason and I wanted. I wore the backup dress and told everyone who asked that I'd changed my mind at the last minute. Nobody knew about Caitlin's theft except Emily and me. Nana Rose was there, holding my hand during the vows, telling me I looked beautiful. I didn't tell her about the dress. I couldn't break her heart on my wedding day. But I saved every screenshot, every comment, every piece of evidence. And I started planning. What would you do? If your sister stole the most meaningful thing you owned and showed it off like it was hers, would you confront her? Would you let it go? I chose a third option. I chose patience. The 3 months before Caitlin's wedding were a masterclass in restraint. She called twice, once about catering, once to ask me to address invitations. Never mentioned the dress, never apologized. I said nothing, waited. 2 weeks before her wedding, Nana Rose was hospitalized. Her heart. I drove 4 hours to be by her bedside. I heard about the dress, she said, voice weak but clear. Your mother told me, bragging about how beautiful Caitlin looked. In my dress, the one I gave to you. I couldn't speak. Don't apologize for your sister's sins. I know who you are, Samantha. I've always known. She paused. And I know you're planning something. I might be. She smiled. Just barely. Good. Make it count. 3 days later, she was released. Fragile but stable. The doctor said she could attend the wedding. The night before Caitlin's wedding, I laid out my outfit. Nana Rose's dress, restored to perfection. Grandmother's vintage earrings, low heels, minimal makeup. The goal wasn't to outshine everyone. The goal was to look exactly like myself. The version Caitlin had tried to erase. The wedding was at a country club. White tents, string lights, 300 guests. I arrived with Jason. We found seats near the middle and waited. People noticed the dress immediately. Heads turned, whispers started. Some recognized the lace from Caitlin's Instagram. Nana Rose was in the front row. She turned, saw the dress, saw me wearing what I'd been given. Her eyes filled with tears. She nodded once, and turned back around. My mother marched over. What are you wearing? Nana's dress. The one Caitlin wore to her engagement party without asking, the night before my wedding. You're doing this on purpose. I'm wearing my grandmother's dress, the one she gave to me. If anyone should be embarrassed, it's not me. She walked away. The ceremony was beautiful. Caitlin floated down the aisle in her $8,000 gown. But during the recessional, her eyes found me. I watched recognition, confusion, and horror cross her face. The reception was where it happened, where everything I'd planned came together in a way I couldn't have scripted. Caitlin had hired a professional photographer and a videographer. They were everywhere, capturing candid moments, documenting every detail of her perfect day. One of the photographers, a woman about my age with sharp eyes and a camera that cost more than my car, spotted me standing near the cocktail bar, sipping champagne and watching the sunset paint the tent walls gold. "Oh my God," she said, lowering her camera. "That dress. I know that dress. It's the same one from the engagement post, isn't it? The vintage lace?" "It's my grandmother's," I said calmly. "She gave it to me. For my wedding." The photographer's eyes went wide. She'd clearly followed Caitlin's wedding journey on social media, seen the viral engagement photos. Now she was doing the math. Same dress, different story. "Wait, so your sister?" She trailed off, the implication hanging in the air between us. "My grandmother gave the dress to me, specifically. Caitlin took it the night before my wedding and posted photos claiming she'd found it." The photographer stood there for a long moment, processing. I could see her photographer's brain working, seeing the story, the drama, the perfect shot. Then she raised her camera. "Do you mind if I take a few photos? You look... the light right now is incredible." I smiled. "Not at all." Those photos went everywhere. The photographer posted one to her professional Instagram that night. A side-by-side comparison she'd pulled together of Caitlin's engagement announcement and me at the wedding, both in the same dress. The caption read, When you find out the vintage find has a different story, anyone else curious who wore it better? By morning, the post had 15,000 likes. Comments were flooding in. Wait, her sister stole her wedding dress the night before her wedding? I would literally never speak to my sibling again. The way she just showed up wearing it back is iconic. Imagine being so entitled you steal a family heirloom and post about it. This is the quietest, most devastating revenge I've ever seen. Caitlin called me 17 times the next day. I didn't answer. Her texts escalated from confusion to anger to desperation. What did you tell that photographer? You're trying to ruin my wedding. This is my day. You had no right. I didn't respond. Let her sit with it. Let her feel what it was like to have someone take your moment. 3 days later, Nana Rose called. I saw the photos. That dress was always yours. Caitlin never understood what it meant. Are you going to talk to her? No. I have nothing to say to someone who would steal from her own sister on her wedding day. Some things don't deserve explanations. They deserve consequences. Nana Rose didn't speak to Caitlin again. Not at family dinners. Not on holidays. Not when Caitlin sent apologetic letters. For 2 years, my grandmother maintained a silence louder than any confrontation. When Caitlin approached her at Christmas, Nana Rose would simply stand up, walk to another room, and close the door. She passed away 18 months later. I was holding her hand. The day after the funeral, Caitlin posted a public apology on Instagram. I need to say something I should have said years ago. When I took my grandmother's wedding dress, I told myself it didn't matter. But it wasn't just a dress. It was a legacy. I took it because I couldn't stand not being chosen. I never learned what it meant to earn something, to respect someone else's moment. I stole from my sister, and I lost my grandmother. She never spoke to me again, and now she's gone. Samantha, I'm sorry. For the dress. For every time I made your life about me. For not seeing you until it was too late. The comments were softer than before. Some called her brave. Others said it wasn't enough. I didn't comment. The apology wasn't for me anyway. It was her chance to finally acknowledge what she'd done. Jason and I have been married for 3 years now. We have a daughter named Rose, after the grandmother who saw me when no one else did. She has strawberry blonde hair and freckles I tell her are magic spots where the sun kissed her. The dress is in a preservation box, waiting. Someday it will be hers, and I'll tell her the story. Not the revenge part, but the real part. About being invisible and learning to see yourself. About waiting for the right moment. About a grandmother who loved quietly, but completely. My sister calls sometimes. We're cordial now, not close. She's working on herself, she says. Therapy, learning to be happy for other people. I hope it's true. That Instagram post, "I found the perfect dress," is still online. Sometimes I look at it and don't feel angry anymore. I just feel sorry for the person who needed to take so desperately she couldn't see what she was losing. The perfect dress was never about the lace or the vintage buttons. It was about being chosen, being trusted with something precious. Caitlin put on the dress, but she never wore what it meant. If you've ever been the invisible sibling, this story is for you. If you've ever had something precious taken by someone who didn't understand its value, this story is for you. If you've ever stayed quiet while planning the perfect response, if you've ever let consequences speak louder than confrontation, if you've ever been underestimated by people who should have loved you better, this story is for you. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been the overlooked one in your family? Did they ever see you? Or did you have to make them look? I read every story. And if you want more stories about people who stopped being invisible and started being unforgettable, subscribe. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud, it's just showing up, wearing the truth, and letting everyone else figure out who lied. End character count 20,025.